Mark, you've been there. You know the scale of the damage to New Orleans. You know what they're facing in terms of the labor shortage. If you were in charge today, what would you do right now?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for having me. First of all, they've got to get the power back on. None of the recovery can really begin with any vigor and enthusiasm until the power is back on in the entire region and on in a sustainable way. But the second thing is that FEMA has to expedite what we would call emergency payments to families. SBA's got to expedite emergency support for small businesses. Thirdly, insurance companies have to process their applications with speed. That's going to trigger the work in the construction industry and other industries that will put people to work in order to be able to rebuild those areas that have been damaged. What's typical in these sorts of recoveries after these sorts of natural disasters is that you see people come in, contractors and others from outside the state, from throughout the region, to fill the labor shortage gaps. Now, I believe that people in the region should have the first, if you will, spot in line to participate in the rebuilding of their own communities. But historically, there's not been enough contractors, not been enough carpenters and bricklayers and other people to be able to do the work that's going to be needed to rebuild the region. So in the short run, you're going to have a business impact. You're going to have unemployment because without power, many businesses have been completely shut down. But you're also going to have a pickup in employment and a pickup in activity in southeastern Louisiana and parts of southern Mississippi as a result of the rebuilding that's going to take place. Congress has to be responsive, do what it's done in Sandy, do what it's done in Katrina, not follow some of the mistakes of Katrina, but in terms of appropriating the dollars that are needed to rebuild public roads, public buildings, school buildings, private homes, and other facilities that are going to need to be rebuilt. LaPlace, St. John the Baptist Parish, many of the areas south of New Orleans were battered in a very big way. The president is there today. That's a good thing to see, to shed a spotlight on those areas that were devastated the most.
But you talk about historically when we've seen these recoveries in the past, and you do see those fleets of construction workers coming in on highways, just an enormous number of workers coming into the affected area. But those recoveries didn't happen in the middle of a labor shortage like we have right now. Almost every sector, we talk about it on CNBC every day, is struggling to hire enough workers to fill the gap just for day-to-day work. Never mind what you need to do in the wake of a hurricane. How does New Orleans, how do all these cities and towns across the region rebuild when you've got this lack of workers in all these key industries? Do they need to do something that's a market-based solution, or do you think government is going to ultimately have to come in here and figure a way around it?
It's going to be a public-private partnership, as it always must be, with a role for both. But Eamon, at the heart, or one of the drivers of this labor shortage, is the pandemic, the Delta variant, the low vaccination rates. The reluctance and fear and the inability of many to get back to work because they're afraid of being infected. And we've got to confront that, and we can't drive around that elephant or drive around that rhinoceros that's in the room. And I believe it's impacting the willingness and the ability of many to be able to get back to work. And so I think if we solve that, we accelerated vaccination rates, if we distilled the politics from the conversation, it would go a long way in helping to address some of the labor shortages that we receive.